In the last video, we saw the story of Ellison, who was once a chef aspirant in modern-day Korea, but ended up being a victim of truck kun and got sent to a fantasy world. There, he found himself in midst of a war between humans and dragons, and got enlisted in the army by the order of the emperor. Ellison lived a harsh life as a soldier, and found that the standard of taste in this world was awfully low. He thought that he should open a restaurant after getting free from his duties, but that took him 15 long years. Actually, Ellison was the strongest mage in the entire continent, and he played a vital role in ending the war. After the war ended, he moved to the peaceful city of Grake, along with his dragon friend Lurin, whom he adopted after her parents died in the war. Together, they run a restaurant, and Mick makes many friends in the city, including the butcher Noel, his wife Rain, and their mutual friend Mint. He also befriends the young Baron Darren and the elf doctor Alina, and all of them absolutely love his cooking. There are also some challenges in front of him, like the elder dragon who comes for Lurin and tells Mick that if she does not have a lair ready by the next year, she will go to the land of dragons with him. Also, a mine near the city collapses, and one of Noel's relatives gets trapped inside. Our MC helps rescue the people in the mine along with Alina, and then helps the woman's adopted son apologize to his mom for being rude. While Ellison went with Alina and others to save the woman trapped in the mine, Lurin was busy digging the cave for her lair. She curses him, saying that he is a terrible person for leaving her here to work alone and forbidding her to use her magic on top of that. However, as she is busy cursing him, she feels a gush of water hitting her face, and shocked, she looks below to see a small fountain where she was digging. When Ellison reaches the cave later, Lurin explains everything to him and says that she was curious about the water and kept digging till the whole cave was flooded. She looks quite proud of what she has done, but Ellison feels irritated by her. After that, he checks out the cave and remarks that there must be a source of underground water somewhere, and Lurin might have discovered a line. However, now the line has run out of water, and they don't have any way to look into it. So, they decide to work on creating the dragon lair for now. Ellison first creates a barrier to protect the cave from getting harmed, then uses an 8th class magic spell called Inferno and creates a giant explosion on the ground. The water scatters everywhere as the result of the explosion, and moments later, the cave is big enough to hold a dragon. Ellison is pleased with the results, and just then, a fountain of water erupts in front of him. He realizes that this is water from a hot spring. Lurin takes off her clothes and asks Ellison to create more water because she needs to take a bath, but he warns that the water is too hot. She realizes it only after she steps into the scalding hot water and backs away immediately. Later, Ellison lectures her about looking before heading into strange things, while she only pouts, asking how she was supposed to know the water was hot. He says that he told her so, and then creates a small barrier around the water fountain. Ellison explains that if he presses down on the ground with the barrier, water will enter it without any dirt or impurity. That way, they can collect the water and remove the barrier to create a small, hot pool. Ellison then yeets Lurin into the pool, and she screams, fearing that she is going to be cooked alive. However, she finds that the water is not as hot as before because Ellison used his magic to cool it down a bit. He also enters the pool, and then Lurin asks him where he went earlier. He replies that the mine had collapsed, so he went to save people, and Lurin is shocked. She wants to know if he went there with the female elf, and he replies that she was more important for the rescue than him because she is a doctor. Lurin is upset upon hearing this, and she yells at Ellison, saying that while she was digging holes, he was having fun with an elf. She says that she hates everyone except him, and Ellison decides to help her mood. He prepares some hot chocolate for her, and as Lurin tastes it, she is mesmerized by the taste. Ellison is glad to hear that she likes it and explains how making the cocoa powder is a lot of work. He says that even though he is very powerful, there are many things he cannot do, like prepare ingredients for his restaurant or heal people with magic. He adds that even though he could blow open a great space in the cave, he will need the help of the dwarves to build a lair here. He tells Lurin that there can be differences between different species and people, but that is not the reason to hate anyone or push them away. She feels that he is telling the truth, but even then, she promises to treat him differently than the others because he is special to her. Meanwhile, the party of mercenaries being led by Ment has come across some bandits. They engage them in combat on the top of a cliff. Miltine, Ment's biggest fan, is near the edge of the cliff and gets told to back away. Ment faces a bandit and disarms him before pushing him off the edge, but the bandit has no intention to go down alone. He grabs Ment and jumps off the cliff, and Miltine can only scream his name. Back at Ellison's place, he puts on a board stating that they are closed for today. Lurin asks him why he is closing the restaurant, and he replies that when they were drinking the hot chocolate the other day, he realized that they had no milk. That is why he plans to build a ranch next to his restaurant and raise some dairy animals there. The ranch is as empty as my wallet, and Ellison replies that they will start from scratch and capture wild buffaloes called Berineric as their livestock. I don't really think that it's a good idea to milk these beasts, but our MC knows what he is doing. He asks Lauren to teleport him down to the river, and she replies that it doesn't work unless she knows where she is going. However, he asks her to just go by the feeling because he already knows the direction of the river and the rough distance. While Lauren thinks that it is cutting it too close, she teleports them as Ellison directs. They arrive at the delta where the river meets the ocean, and seeing the buffaloes there, they are sure that they came to the right place. Lauren says that is right, but they have a teeny tiny problem, which is that they are in the sky. Ellison realizes that the ground is quite lower here than their restaurant, and they are free falling into the ocean. Lauren tells him to do something quickly, and he asks her why she doesn't release her dragon wings to fly. She grabs him and yells that she would rather die than turn into her dragon form. Ellison asks her why he hates her dragon form that much, and she replies that it is none of his business. Ellison uses his magic and brings them to the ground safely, and then Lauren remarks that the river is really wide here. He gives her a slight judgmental stare as he tells her that it is the ocean, and Lauren panics as she tries to overcompensate for not knowing about the ocean. However, Ellison knows that she has never had the chance to explore the world. He offers to play in the ocean after they are done catching the buffaloes, and Lauren likes the idea. Ellison thinks that about 10 buffaloes would be enough for the farm, and they once again make a bet, saying that the slower one has to do the dishes today. Ellison is glad to accept that challenge because the restaurant is closed and there are no dishes to do. Little does he know that his regular guests are waiting outside his restaurant. There is Noel, the butcher, Darren, the young baron, and Alina, the elf doctor. All of them are starving to death as they wait for Ellison and wonder why the restaurant is closed today. Noel says that he has been waiting since lunchtime, and Darren replies that he ran from the castle to come here. However, Alina has it worse, and she complains that she hasn't eaten anything since breakfast because she wanted to taste Ellison's delicious pasta. A little later, Ellison and Lauren return home through a portal. They had fun splashing around in the ocean, and the buffaloes followed them like obedient puppies. Ellison still cannot believe that they are so docile, and Lauren replies that it is because of her dragon mind manipulation abilities. He thinks that they can rest assured now, and after he leaves them on the ranch, he goes to the restaurant, only to find 3 customers starving on the floor. Noel notices that Ellison is back, and he begs him to give them some food already. Everyone eats to their heart's content soon, and Ellison asks them what they would have done if he had not returned to the restaurant. Noel casually replies that he would have found 3 people starving to death on his door whenever he returned, and Ellison is left speechless. As Lauren washes the dishes inside, Ellison reveals that they went to catch some buffaloes earlier. Noel is interested to hear about that and remarks that they will need some more hands if they want to look after all the buffaloes. Ellison knows that too, and he has plans to hire some helpers, and he wants to organize some job interviews. Noel snickers as he tells him to not worry about the interviews. He says that elves can read other people's minds and find their intentions, while the young baron has much to learn about finding good and trustworthy people. He then claims that he met different types of people while working as a mercenary, so he also knows a thing or two about people. Noel declares that he wants to pay Ellison back for making him work on his day off and volunteers to do the job interviews for him. He even ropes Alina and Darren into it and tells Ellison to take it easy. The next day, Ellison posts the job advertisement on the town square, and many people line up at his restaurant to give the interview. Noel calls in the first candidate, and as he nervously enters the room, he immediately rejects him. He claims that even though he is a young man, he has no energy and cannot handle the buffaloes. He then calls the next man, who is full of vigor and promises to do his best. Noel likes him, but Alina reads his mind and finds that he is here just because he wants to score with her. She calls him a pervert and fails him, and Noel tells the man to get lost. After that, a veteran meadow manager comes there and says that he has the experience of running a ranch for 30 years and that he can make this ranch the best in the entire city. He is confident and business-minded, but it is Darren's turn to create problems, and he asks him what his thoughts are on the welfare of buffaloes. The man is taken aback by his question, so the boy elaborates, saying that he must have plans about the future competition and about crimes involving the buffaloes. He declares that he is a baron who cares about the buffaloes like they are his subjects, and he urges the man not to take it lightly. The man realizes that everyone here is a crazy person who gets offended by one thing or another, so he walks out by himself. Ellison realizes that letting the 3 of them handle the interviews doesn't seem to be the best idea because they don't seem to pass anyone. The next candidate comes in, and Noel fails him because he has personal beef with him. Alina rejects some candidates because they are looking lustfully at her, and Darren goes on about the welfare policies for the buffaloes. They keep on failing people like nobody's business, and Ellison can only wonder what is going to happen now. Soon, there are no more applicants left, and Noel asks if it is because the salary being offered is too low. Ellison is dejected and tells his friends that, from now on, he will be the one to conduct the interviews. Just then, someone enters the shop, and Ellison recognizes the person as Miltine, who wants to apply for the job. Wait, was she always a girl? Noel is surprised to see her here and asks her if she had not left with Ment and others to guard a merchant caravan. Miltine nervously tells them the truth about what happened, and Noel screams on learning that Ment got injured after falling off a cliff. He wonders why Ment did not tell him anything like that, and he asks if he is still in critical condition. Miltine replies that he is safe now but has become unable to use his legs and retired from mercenary work because of that. Alina replies that if he has already recovered, there is no way for her to help him, but she still wants to pay him a visit. Suddenly, Lurin asks the important question about why Miltine wants to work at the farm when Ment was the one who got injured. Ellison scolds her for being insensitive, but she replies that she is just curious about why the girl left the mercenary work. Miltine is flustered as she replies that she wants to find something Ment can do in the future and work together with him. Seeing her blush so hard, everyone realizes that Ment is not only her father figure, but she calls him daddy in the sheets too, or at least wants to do that. Lauren asks Miltine how old she is, and she replies that she is 29, and there is a 13-year age gap between her and Ment. While Knowles panics on hearing that, Miltine says that she doesn't mind the age gap at all. Alina doesn't understand what the fuss is about because, among elves, 13 years is basically the same age. But Ellison tells her that it can be a big deal for humans. Miltine then declares that she has already made up her mind, and either she gets a job here or she starves on the streets. Lauren likes her determination and accepts her as their new worker. Miltine thanks him, but as Ellison asks her if she has consulted with Ment about working here in the future, she replies that she will ask him when she successfully draws out her first bucket of milk. She coyly tells everyone that Ment taught her everything about mercenary work, and this time, she wants to learn it by herself and then teach him. Ellison accepts her way of thinking and declares that he has also planned what he is going to make after they start getting milk from the buffaloes. He also accepts Miltine as his new employee, and the next day, she joins as the manager of the ranch. Ellison first asks her to lead the buffaloes out of the fence for grazing, and Miltine is eager to do so. She approaches one buffalo while wondering how it was so docile. However, as she tries to get it to move, it shoves her away. Miltine doesn't give up and starts working even harder to take the buffalo outside. But it is not interested and pushes her away once again. Even after getting hit every time, she does not give up and continues chasing the buffaloes. The next day, Ellison asks Miltine to do some regular maintenance on the buffalo hooves, but they are not comfortable with it and kick her away. After that, he asks her to make hay, and the buffaloes suddenly feel hungry as they see the hay and once again kick her away to eat in peace. A few days pass like this, and Miltine is on the verge of giving up. She is disappointed in herself and starts crying because, at this rate, she will not be able to do anything for Ment. Seeing her so sad, the buffaloes come to her and start licking her. Miltine realizes that they have opened up to her now, and she takes this chance to milk them. She runs back to the restaurant and tells Ellison that she got milk. He is impressed because he had not hoped for her to succeed so early, and then tells her to get into some clean clothes so that they can strategize the next step. She is curious about what they have to do, and Ellison tells her that they are going to make pizza for Ment. As Miltine changes, Ellison pasteurizes the milk using fire magic and then adds vinegar to curdle it. Soon, the milk separates into curd and whey, and he uses the curd to make mozzarella cheese. After that, they move on to baking the pizza, and Ellison remarks that it will be the perfect gift for a confession. Miltine blushes as she realizes that it truly is a great chance for her to confess her feelings to Ment. But she is still nervous. Ellison calms her down, saying that in the past, many women lined up for him, but he never got the chance to date anyone. Bro has a 0% success rate, and that is still 10% more than mine. Ellison then spreads the pizza sauce over the dough, and Miltine shreds cheese over it. Soon, everyone goes to see Ment, who is shocked to see them. He asks them how they know his location, but they only ask him about how his rehab is going on. While they talk, Miltine stands at a fair distance, nervously holding the pizza. Inside the house, Ment says it is embarrassing for him to welcome guests in his condition, and Noel asks him why he hid such a serious thing from everyone. He replies that he was planning to tell them later, and then asks how they know about him being injured because only people from his mercenary group know about it. Just as he says that, Miltine enters the room, and she nervously asks Ment how he is feeling. Later, Alina uses her healing magic on Ment's feet and tells him that while complete recovery is difficult, he will feel better because of the magic. He thanks her and then turns to Miltine, who wanted to talk to him about something. She has turned red as a tomato as she realizes that confessing her feelings is too embarrassing. As everyone looks at her, Miltine decides to bring up food first and says that they can talk later. She wants to convey her sincerity through the food, and she opens the pizza box with the pepperoni in the shape of a heart. She reveals that it is called pizza, and she made it with the help of Ellison. Miltine blushes as she tries to point out the heart, but Ment is more excited about the pizza and quickly pulls a slice. Ellison remarks that the cheese really stretches well, and Ment is amazed that cheese could be delicious too since he has always seen the most horrible kind of it. He takes a bite of the pizza and finds that it is savory and delicious, and the texture is quite nice too. He asks everyone to try it, and Miltine holds back her tears because her plan failed. After eating the food, she asks Ment if he has decided what he wants to do in the future, and he replies that he is still thinking about it. She asks him to work at Ellison's ranch with her, and Ment is surprised to learn that Miltine quit her job as a mercenary. She replies that she did it for him, and gathers all her courage as she tells Ment that she wants to be by his side from now on. Everyone is happy that Miltine finally confessed her feelings, but Ment is as dumb as a brick, and he doesn't understand it. He remarks that now Miltine is free from mercenary work and can find a boyfriend for herself, shocking everyone. She is devastated as Ment tells her to go out more often and meet young men. He then tells Ellison that he will start working for him after his rehab is complete, and Ellison feels terrible about Miltine, who just got daughter-zoned. As they return from his place later, Ellison tells Miltine not to be so heartbroken, and she cheerfully replies that she is not. She knows that there will be many opportunities when they are working together, so she takes her leave. However, she was just putting on a brave act and breaks into tears immediately as she is left alone. Despite that, she refuses to give up on her dream daddy. On the other hand, Noel and Ellison talk about how clueless Ment was, but Alina thinks that he must have understood Miltine's feelings. She is right, and Ment is in deep confusion about what he should do now. What sane man would refuse a tomboy girlfriend? Meanwhile, Leon, the crown prince of the Ruben Empire, is visiting the great town, and the people have gathered to welcome him. He likes the peaceful vibe of the town and how all the ladies fangirl over him. As he is flirting with them, Duke Porgo, who is accompanying the prince, asks about the situation in this place. His chief magician, Medrin, replies that the lord of the town is preparing to welcome them once they reach his castle. Porgo is not pleased by the preparations, and he plans to take control over the region soon anyway. In the castle, Darren is getting ready to welcome the crown prince and the duke. Since his father is bedridden and even his stepmother is not feeling well, the sole responsibility lies with him. He is already on his edge, and the butler makes him even more uneasy by reminding him that his actions may decide the future of his town. Darren then walks to the room where the Duke and the Prince are waiting for him and greets them while hiding his nervousness. They sit down for tea, and Darren reveals that his father is still not healthy. Leon remarks that the Marquis, with whom their family was closely associated, is also not doing so well nowadays. Taking this chance, Porgo asks Darren to change factions and become his underling, saying that he won't have to worry about any politics with that. Darren replies that he cannot answer his question immediately, and the Duke immediately starts his cheap tricks. He tells the young Baron that there are a lot of development plans taking place, and for that, they may need to increase the taxes from Great City and its neighbors. Darren is terrified as he realizes that the Duke plans to pressurize him into joining him, but he still doesn't agree to join him. However, Porgo terrifies him further, saying that he has to make his decision soon because doing nothing is not an option. However, the boy is too flustered to answer, and he says that he has prepared a dinner party for them and will answer them at the party. While the Duke is not so interested in his party, Prince Leon asks Darren if he can satisfy someone who has been eating food made by royal chefs every day. The boy replies that he is confident because their city has the best restaurant in the world. In Ellison's restaurant, it is lunch break, and he calls Miltine to come join them. He prepares fried rice with a half-fried egg on top, and Miltine and Lauren sit to eat. Just then, someone kicks open the door, and Ellison finds a group of knights rudely barging into his restaurant. He asks them what they want and tells their leader to put his sword back. The knight captain says that he has no right to order him since he is a member of the Empire's best knight order. Lauren doesn't like how rudely the knight is behaving, but Ellison tells her to focus on the food because he has everything under control here. He then politely asks the knight to put his sword back, but he points at his neck instead. He tells Ellison that he doesn't realize his position and tells him to get down on her knees. Ellison is furious now, and he gives him the final warning to get out of his restaurant. The knight doesn't listen, and Ellison prepares to attack him, but he is stopped before he can do anything as the vice commander of the knights comes there and yells at his men to back away. Ellison recognizes the knight commander, Diriant, who apologizes for the rudeness of his subordinates, and then greets him. He punishes the knights outside and then tells Ellison that he sent them to meet him so that he doesn't run away like before. Ellison has forgotten it by now, and he remarks that it has been 5 years since they last met. Diriant still clearly remembers that day when their knight squad was about to be annihilated by monsters, but Ellison arrived there and saved them all by himself. After that, Diriant refused to get an award for holding the line until the very end, and even demanded to be punished. Back to the present, and he remarks that he found it dishonorable to accept the reward when he almost lost the fight. That time, he was so busy with the war that he failed to pay attention to his ailing wife. Thankfully, Ellison sent the prize money, which he refused, directly to her so that she could get treatment. Diriant thanks Ellison and says that he thought long about how to repay him. Recently, he heard that he had opened up his restaurant, and that gave him the best idea. Ellison already knows that it is not going to be good, and then Diriant opens his mouth and verifies it. He has planned to shut down all restaurants in the city so that Ellison's restaurant becomes the best. What the hell? Ellison realizes that the Diriant has gone crazy, but before he can say anything, the knight commander runs off to the city to shut down every other restaurant. Meanwhile, Leon and Porgo head to Ellison's restaurant, and the Duke asks him if he is certain that they should go to a restaurant for the dinner party. The prince replies that since the Baron guarantees the food is great, they should try it out. Porgo asks him to call the Imperial Guards to escort him in that case, but Leon replies that he has already given them a leave until dinner time. He claims that there is no reason to be afraid, and just then, some arrows come flying towards him. However, they all stop mid-air thanks to the magic of Medrine. The bandits soon make their appearance and demand the Crown Prince surrender to them if he wants the others to live. Porgo tells Medrine to kill all the bandits, and she agrees. The bandits attack her despite realizing that she is a powerful mage. Medrine uses a powerful spell and sends huge rock pillars towards the bandits, ending them in one attack. Leon is amazed to see her power and remarks that Medrine is indeed the strongest mage in the Empire, and with her by his side, even dragons cannot harm him. The leader of the bandits is still alive, but the prince doesn't even want to interrogate him because he believes that he won't reveal anything. He tells Medrine to put him to sleep forever, and she obliges. Darren is amazed to see her power and realizes that the rumors about the 7th class archmage, who is strong enough to defeat an army herself, are true. Back at Ellison's restaurant, he has apprehended Diriant and coldly smiles as he asks him what he was planning to do. He lectures him, asking how he can claim to be a knight when he is trying to unlawfully shut down other restaurants. Diriant replies that he was just going to tell other restaurant owners that there were worms in their food. Ellison says that is a dumb idea, and he replies that he will think of something better. He is about to get lectured again when Diriant sees the prince arriving, and he immediately kneels before him. Leon remarks that he didn't expect to see him here, and the knight commander asks him if he is not going to stay at the castle. The prince replies that he was, but then he heard about an awesome restaurant, so he brought his entourage here. While Diriant panics at seeing Medrine, Leon spots Ellison and thinks that he is the owner of this restaurant. Ellison greets him, but he recognizes Medrine, and he doesn't seem to like her. Meanwhile, Leon recognizes that Ellison is wearing the uniform of the old Imperial mages, and learns that he has retired after serving the army for a long time. He is excited to know that and calls Medrine, saying that the restaurant owner is her junior. However, she breaks into a cold sweat as she sees Ellison, and stammers as she calls his name. The Duke asks her what is wrong, but she ignores him and goes directly to the prince and Ellison. Leon asks her if he knows this guy, and she is terrified as she recalls her previous encounters with him. She knows that she must play it carefully, otherwise the entire town will be destroyed. Ellison introduces himself, adding that they have never met before, and Medrine nervously accepts his story and tells Leon that she is seeing this man for the first time. She thinks that since Ellison is pretending to not know her, he wants to stay low-key, and to act normal, she decides to be a little bossy. She orders him to prepare his best dishes for the prince, and even though Ellison is pissed at her, he replies that he will do it. The guests sit down for food, and say that the interior is quite decent for a shabby restaurant. Ellison remarks that they were not expecting such distinguished guests, and Leon tells him that there is no need to worry as the only important thing in a restaurant is food. He then exclaims that the young baron personally vouched for his food, claiming that it could surprise the prince, and Ellison is not happy with Darren for putting him in a pinch like this. However, he knows that he is in a tough spot himself. Darren's father is unwell, and the power balance in the empire is delicate. With a power-hungry person like Porgo in the territory, it was only natural for the boy to be intimidated and come to a senior for help. On top of that, the prince was just here to fool around with some local women, and Ellison doesn't plan to let that slide. Suddenly, Prince Leon decides to make a bet with Darren, telling him that he will win if Ellison can cook something that can get a wow out of him. He tells the boy that if he loses, he will have to run around the city without any clothes. Darren is terrified, and Ellison decides to show the prince who the real boss is. He goes to the kitchen, thinking about what kind of dish can surprise the crown prince, who must have tried everything in the empire. He first brings the appetizer, which is mutton mushroom soup. Leon remarks that it is delicious, but not enough to amaze him. The Duke agrees with him, and so to turn things in his favor, Ellison counts on Medrine because he knows she won't turn him down. He has left a message in her soup, and she trembles as she reads that he wants a rave review from her. She tastes the soup and starts overacting, saying that the soup is so tasty that it feels like she is losing her mind. Leon and Porgo are dumbfounded, and even Ellison is embarrassed at the display. Medrine continues with her act and nervously asks them to give it another try, while she just wants to kill herself to get out of this situation. Leon is taken aback by her intensity and takes another sip of the soup. Darren thinks that the soup is really good, but it is not so great to bring out such a reaction from the Archmage, who must have had plenty of such soups in her life. While the prince and the duke change their opinions on the soup, Darren wonders what was that reaction, and wonders who can force a 7th-class mage to do something like this. He turns around to see Ellison snickering and realizes that he is hiding something. He goes to the kitchen, and Leon remarks that this soup is of the same level as the one in the royal palace. Porgo thinks that since Medrine liked it so much, he will include more soup in her diet when they reach back. She replies that this one is special and hurriedly finishes it all to show how much she liked it. As she finishes it, she sees another message at the bottom of her bowl, in which Ellison asks her to meet him behind the restaurant after eating. She chokes on the soup and spits it out, much to the shock of Leon and Porgo. Medrine then goes behind the restaurant and finds Ellison waiting for her. She nervously approaches him, and he uses soundproof magic so that no one can hear them. He greets her and then remarks that her performance earlier was very good. However, he is not happy that she is here. Ellison unleashes his mana as he reminds Medrine that he had warned her in the past that they should never meet again. She desperately tells him that she had no idea that he lived here. Ellison asks her why she came then, and she replies that she is working for Duke Porgo right now and travels with him whenever he wants to increase his influence on weaker nobles. Ellison says he is not interested in the Duke, but rather in the prince. He had heard that Prince Leon was just an incompetent idiot who did all his thinking from between his legs. However, now that he has seen him in person, he has realized that he only plays a fool, uses his authority to his advantage, and has fun while fooling other people. Ellison remarks that while everyone will think that it is Porgo who wants to pressurize the great city into joining him, it is actually Leon's plan. He acts like he is not serious, but that is still enough to put the young baron in a corner. Medrine can't stop shuddering as she hears this, and she screams that she cannot tell those secrets to Ellison even if he tortures her. Just then, Lauren appears behind her and asks her if she will speak even if she is tortured. Seeing her terrifying aura, Medrine falls to her knees and starts crying, saying that she just wants to go home. When she returns to the restaurant, she looks like someone has sucked the life out of her. Leon asks her if she is fine, but she replies that this is just the after effect of eating the soup too quickly. The prince then remarks that the soup was indeed delicious, and he was not hoping to eat something like that in this backwater territory. He then adds that Darren must be confident of winning the bet, but reminds him that he must surprise him with the food to do that. Leon laughs like an idiot, saying that he won't get surprised so easily today because he has a bet to win. Then he shows his true color and tells Darren that he won't be surprised if his sick father gets up and starts cooking for him. He tells the boy to give a favorable answer to the offer made to him in the castle and says that he will change his mind then. What a douchebag. However, Darren stays firm on his ground and replies that being a lord is a position of responsibility. He claims that he cannot simply cast aside the lives of his people just to avoid being embarrassed in public. He then declares that he believes in this restaurant and continues the bet. He accepts the penalty of running around the city without his clothes if he loses the bet, and Leon doesn't seem pleased. After a few minutes, Ellison brings out the main dish, and the prince remarks that a lot is at stake in this dish. Ellison smirks as he says that he knows it, and then lifts the cover to reveal that he has brought a baked mass of mud. Porgo is furious that he is offering them mud, but Ellison tells him that it is not all. He takes a hammer and shatters the mud cake, revealing the whole chicken covered in cabbage leaves. I can't stop drooling. The prince recognizes chicken meat and asks Ellison how he got it because it was incredibly difficult to catch or buy. He replies that he brought out some since this is a special occasion. He then remarks that while the dish looks like a lump of mud from outside, the true delicacy inside is the element of surprise. Ellison keeps on rambling about how the exterior looks different from the interior, and how everyone will be fooled by his dish, and the prince tells him to get to the point. Ellison calmly replies that his dish is just like the crown prince, who acts like an idiot but is trying to manipulate small nobles into giving up their power so that he can benefit from it. Everyone freezes upon hearing his words, and Medrine realizes that something terrible is going to happen now because she could not resist RMC's interrogation. Ellison cracks the piece of baked mud in his hand as he says that it is not right for him to reveal the secrets of the prince. As Leon hears that, he is sweating buckets because he realizes that his secret has been found out. Even after saying that he should poke into secrets, Ellison doesn't stop. He reveals that, due to the war with the dragons, the emperor has lost his power and control over most of the cities. He says that since the emperor's power is at an all-time low, the crown prince must do something to survive. And the method he chose was to spread his authority among the divided nobles. Leon shudders as Ellison exposes how he always acts like a fool who wants to party and have fun with women to prove that he is harmless to others. Porgo finally speaks up and asks Ellison if he even realizes who he is talking to. However, he has not finished his story yet and asks the Duke to listen to the next part. Ellison says that while the prince was acting as a fool, he was also amassing an army to suppress the growing power of the nobles. He smirks, saying that if news about this spreads among the nobles, they will unite and hunt down the crown prince. Just as Ellison says this, Porgo commands Diriant into the restaurant. He tells Ellison that while his theory was interesting, he ventured too far into dangerous territory, and now his restaurant will cease to exist along with him. Diriant panics upon realizing that Ellison has done something, but Ellison doesn't seem to mind the situation at all. Porgo says that they just need to cut his tongue so that he cannot talk to anyone, and he commands Medrine to bring him to his knees. She is terrified, and nervously replies that she cannot do that. The Duke is confused and commands his knights to kill Ellison, but then the mood is disturbed by the sound of Leon munching on the chicken. He tears into the chicken like nothing was wrong and cheerfully asks everyone to stop worrying about small things and focus on the food. Porgo says that he cannot do that, and Leon loses his temper as he commands him to sit down immediately. He obeys and takes a bite of the food. Even though he can't taste it because of the tension, he remarks that it tastes good. Leon says that it doesn't just taste good, it is quite surprising too. Porgo realizes what is happening, and he gives up. The prince then declares that he lost the bet and tells Darren that he won. It takes high IQ to play the role of a person with low IQ. With that, he gets up to leave, but Ellison asks him if he doesn't want an answer from the Baron. Leon replies that he has already heard enough of the young Baron's answer and promises that he won't bother him again as he leaves the restaurant with his entourage. With that, Ellison wipes off his sweat and says that luckily it went well and they won the bet, and Darren can only nervously laugh. He then says that he does not understand what just happened or how Ellison managed to intimidate the prince. He replies that he doesn't need to understand it, and he also doesn't need to worry about any kind of political pressure as long as he is here. With that, he tells the boy to enjoy the chicken since all the party spoiling people are already on their way home. As the prince's party rides back to the capital, defeated, Diriant wonders what is happening. Leon then asks Medrine if the chef was the person she used to talk about, and she nervously tells him that he is right. Leon had only heard about a man whom even nobles and royals couldn't disrespect and finally realized who Ellison was after meeting him. Porgo says that even then, the man is too dangerous to be left alone. Leon doesn't want to comment on that and says that up until now, they have only used shallow tactics to consolidate power, but he does not feel satisfied with it. He thinks about how Darren decided to wager his reputation on Ellison's cooking, and wonders if he could do the same thing if he were in his position. He declares that they will start over, and this time, they will slowly take their time to build trust. Back at Ellison's location, he has finally completed building the shed where his buffaloes can sleep at night. However, his building skills are too shabby, and just one kick from a buffalo brings the shed down. Even the buildings and angry birds are more sturdy than this. As Ellison grieves over his broken shed, Milteen asks him how he built his restaurant, and he replies that he had some contractors make it. He says that he needs to search for the greatest artisans in the world and tells Lauren to pack her bags because they are going to meet the dwarves. However, little do they know what is waiting for them in the territory of the dwarves. A red-haired, tan mommy dragon has captured the mountain of dwarves, and she feels Ellison and his party intruding on her lair, and she plans to welcome them in her own style. With this, the video ends. Like and comment on this video to show your love, and subscribe to our channel so that we can bring more such content to you.